Hello, my name is Jack Chivers, and for my diagnostic screencast, my aim is to analyse and compare two horror games and to see how horror in video games is developed. The games that I will be analysing are Resident Evil 2 and Silent Hill for the PlayStation. Both games have a third-person view and have a similar style of gameplay, which is why I'm comparing both of them. The first game that I will be talking about is Resident Evil 2. This game is both a mixture of survival horror and action. The game starts by the player choosing Leon S. Kennedy or Claire Redfield. Both characters arrive to find Raccoon City infested with zombies, and the player must help them escape. The way that horror is executed in this game is quite unique, because the whole emphasis of the zombie apocalypse is echoed throughout the whole game, to add tension to the player. Tension is a key element for Resident Evil 2's horror. Another example of tension used in the game would be the scarce amount of helpful items such as ammunition and herbs. The amount of enemies in the game's areas, such as this part in the police station, adds a constant fear of being killed by zombies. The music within the game is a contributing factor to Resident Evil 2's horror atmosphere. Throughout the parts when the player is in a building, the game's soundtrack gives off a feeling of false security. While the player is outside, the moans of zombies can be heard from around Raccoon City. Later in the game, the player will encounter safe rooms where they can save their data. These rooms have music that calms the player, making them feel safe. The next game I shall be analysing is Silent Hill. This game has powerful psychological horror, in which the game uses sounds and in-game events to build up tension. Tension is a part of Silent Hill's horror, but the most unique way Silent Hill displays its horror is changing the atmosphere. The game starts by the player playing the role of Harry Mason, who arrives at Silent Hill to find his adopted daughter, but realises that Silent Hill is slowly becoming hell itself. When the player first walks around Silent Hill, music is played in the background to add a sense of mystery to the game. The sounds in Silent Hill are used to increase and to decrease tension of scenes within the game. For example, this alleyway has music that increases in a dramatic way by adding mechanical sounds to slowly add more tension to the player. Later in the game, the player will find a radio in Silent Hill, which makes a static noise whenever there is a demon nearby. This adds even more tension to the player.
Radio. What's going on with that radio?
The monsters in the game are manifestations of Alyssa, who is the main villain in the game. For example, Wikipedia states that the groaner in Silent Hill symbolically represents Alyssa's fear of dogs. Also, monsters randomly appear appear around parts of the game to scare the player. In Silent Hill, the environment changes when the player gets further into the game. Harry Mason will be transported to the other world. This world is the same as Silent Hill, but looks demonic. The other world is far more dangerous than the normal Silent Hill, since enemies are stronger in the other world and the environment is far darker, making it harder to see enemies and to navigate. Overall, both games have their techniques for developing horror, like Resident Evil 2 with its survival horror, or Silent Hill with its psychological horror. While I was doing research, I came across a document called Horror Video Games and the Uncanny. It describes how horror can be developed in games. One part of the document explains how realistic avatars or main characters are vital in a horror game. The avatar represents the eye on the screen. It constitutes the means by which the game space is engaged with and acts as the focal point for the player's sense of embodiment within the virtual space. That is all for my screencast. I hope you enjoyed it, and most of all, thanks for watching.